Hey there, welcome in. Thank you so much for listening. I'm sending so much gratitude your way, whether you're a returning listener and you chose to come back for another episode, or you're brand new and welcome if you're brand spanking new, first time listening to me. My name is Dennis with the Growth Winners Podcast, and I'm so pumped up and fired up, especially for this episode more than ever because, not much to choose from. It's the third episode of the podcast, but this is what it all comes down to for me. This episode is going to be so valuable and so relatable to so many because I know for a fact, this is why I started the podcast. This is why I am who I am. This is what it all comes down to. It's the number one thing that will steal your happiness if you let it. And I cannot wait to dive into that. But first and foremost, if you didn't watch that first episode where I talked about your dreams coming true and stuff, and you're not watching it on YouTube, check this out. I'm still in my kids' playroom, and in that first episode I talked about my journey, well, not my journey, but being a part of the journey and not focusing so much on the destination and the end results, focusing on the way to get there. And for me right now, what more of a journey could you be on being in your kids' playroom and filming a podcast? So here we go into episode 3. Whoopsies, forgot something. The mantra. We have a mantra. If you're just joining for the first time, we have a mantra. Well, I have a mantra. You're going to repeat 3 things, and they're very simple, and I don't care where you're at. You have to hold yourself accountable if you want to see change in your life, okay? Here we go. I am confident. Repeat that after me. I am confident. I am valuable. I am a growth winner. Okay, here we go. Before we do anything, we've got to get that out of the way, and then we get back into it. Happiness. I want to talk about happiness on a deep level with you guys, okay? The number one thing that steals your happiness is comparison. Comparing who you are, comparing what you have, comparing to what you want to be. That's the number one main point. I've got my notes here. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see me glancing over a little bit. How about yourself? The number one comparison we make is to ourselves, okay? When we don't accomplish the things that we desire, we don't have the things that we want, we compare to other people, okay? And it drives this total control over our lives and creates such a deep level of unhappiness because we're comparing to who we want to be. Now, I'm the first advocate for saying, chase your dreams and create a better version of yourself. You should always chase something more. You should always be moving towards something. You should always have a higher purpose, right? That's something that I believe in. But when you get down on yourself, there's a perspective shift in this, and that's why it's so important. There is a perspective shift that when you're comparing to yourself, okay? Because when I compare to myself, I'm competing. I got this from Grant Cardone. I'm competing against my potential. I'm competing against who I want to be. I've created, and I'm going to get to this in another episode because it's so important. I have created a better version of myself in my mind. Okay, I wrote it down on paper, and I've got this person in my mind of who I want to become, and I've created it into my identity. Okay, I've built from the inside out. I didn't worry about the things that I don't have yet. That's the perspective shift, okay? When you start comparing to what you don't have, it drives a level of insanity and unhappiness, and to me, it's the most painful thing for somebody to ever go through because you're living a lie. Life's going to walk right past your face, and you're going to watch it, right? And when you get to watch your life slip right out of your fingers, it's such a level of unhappiness that I hate to see people go through it. I cannot stand to see people work jobs they don't like. I cannot stand to see parents not have enough time or freedom with their families. I compare against myself too, but I compare it in a positive perspective that I'm comparing to who I want to be. It's the potential that I have. When I start fulfilling that potential, it fuels me. It creates this drive inside of me. Whereas if I'm comparing against myself to where I'm not, that's the perspective shift, comparing myself to where I'm not. Okay, so if I set a goal for myself and I want to be XYZ in XYZ and I don't hit it, that creates a level of unhappiness for most people because you're comparing against what you don't have or what you didn't get. But when you start to look at things as an opportunity, not as a loss, when everything's a win in your life and you start creating and you're obsessing over the wins, you can't lose. That's what creates immense happiness, is you can't lose when everything's a win. And when you make that perspective shift, it's huge. Please just try it. Here we go. Moving forward, comparing against yourself, probably the number one comparison, or the most powerful comparison that you can make, because number two, not everybody's going to be, but they can be, is as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a professional. And I'm going to speak on entrepreneurship because I am an entrepreneur, but let me talk to the car salesman right now. Let me talk to the executive, I don't know, in any corporation, the higher ups, whoever you are, okay, comparing against yourself, even teachers, even doctors, even anybody with a 9-to-5 job. I don't care who you are at this point. Entrepreneurs, everyone on the planet. You're embarrassed when you see Dr. So-and-so driving a Mercedes and you're still paying off, your Nissan Altima 2007. I don't know. You're comparing. It creates unhappiness. Entrepreneurs, you see other people traveling the world. You see other people doing things that you want. And you're just sitting there and you're watching and you're dwelling. What's it doing? It's creating unhappiness. Comparison to others. Comparison to what people have and what you don't have. It's creating unhappiness. It's very toxic and is very painful to experience. What I advise you to do is to not compare to where other people are at, okay? Because that's the other thing you have to understand is where you're at in your journey. If I were to compare myself, I'm starting a podcast. I'm on episode 3 right now while I'm talking. I'm on episode 3. If I tried to compare my podcast on why I'm not having as much listeners as Gary Vaynerchuk or, Pat Flynn or, Dean Graziosi or Grant Cardone, if all these guys that I like and I'm listening to, and Ed Milet's probably my number one favorite podcast. If I'm sitting here dwelling on why I'm not Ed Milet over 3 episodes and I make that comparison, I'm going to be unhappy. It's a proven formula to unhappiness is when you start comparing. If the only thing you had to compare yourself to was your potential and who you are tomorrow and who you are in a year and setting these goals and achieving them, and you start to block out all the noise, even inside, okay? The voices and the thoughts inside of your head that are being controlled by what you see and what you hear and what you're watching. Stop watching, right? Ignore the rest of the stuff. Focus on yourself and get internal, not external focused. You want to be internal focused, okay? And then the last main point is, oh boy, this is a good one too, and a lot of people, I should have made this number 2. Health, okay? Being skinny, right? Health is such a big one that mostly for females. I mean, I'm a guy. I go to the gym. I used to go to the gym a lot, but I still like to be fit. I still like to lift a little bit here and there, and I still like to go on runs. I love running. But if I'm looking at other guys out there, and they've got better bodies than me, and I start to compare, they've got a six-pack, they're jacked, they're toned, they're this, they're that. You start comparing, and you get unhappy just by looking at other people. And if it's that easy to be unhappy, then damn, we've got to make some changes in our lives. Would you agree? So with the females out there, with being skinny and being fit and being toned, you're looking at the magazines, you're looking at, your friends or people on Instagram, these influencers getting thousands of likes in minutes, and you're getting 4 likes in a day. You start to get unhappy. It's like, gee, I wish. Here's another one that I'm going to speak on immensely is parents. Okay? I've got 2 daughters. You'll meet them eventually. Maybe I'll even bring them on the podcast one day. Bailey and Brooklyn are my 2 daughters, and the parents out there, especially for myself, I wish my kids would blank sports. I mean, my kids are our kids are 5 and 3 right now, so we're just getting into dance, but we're not into anything crazy as far as team sports and stuff, as far as comparing to other people. But for those of you with 8-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds and whatever, and you're comparing, somebody nudges you, which one's your boy out there on the football field? Oh, he's on the bench. You're embarrassed as a parent, but instead, why not embrace that, right? Don't compare your kids to other kids. They're at different points in their lives. Okay, they have different goals and dreams and ambitions. Okay, so just be proud of your kids to where if you're so proud of them for anything that they do, there is no level of comparison, and you're just supportive and constantly supportive for them. There is no comparison to be made. It's so important, right? Sorry I get a little fired up on that one. The parents thing is huge for me because I truly believe that a lot of parents live through their kids on their comparing things that they wanted to do, okay? So as a great example, if you are a parent in your 30s, 40s, 50s, I don't know the time frame. If you're an older parent and you've got kids and you've never made it to college, and you're forcing and spoon-feeding college down their throats only because, not because it's best for them and not because you think they should do it, only because you never achieve those things, that to me is the wholesale sign, whatever, of being completely just fucking twisted in my mind, being completely wrong. That parents out there makes decisions for their kids based on what they want, based on what they think's best, because they never achieved it, And look at how many kids these days grow up following in their parents' footsteps. And again, I'm not trying to bash parents. I'm a parent myself. I love my parents. I was raised. I don't have a crazy story to tell. I was raised and completely blessed growing up. Right? I love my parents to death. I love everything that they've done to raise me and to be who I am. But if my parents would have forced me to make decisions because of what they thought was right, or what they didn't have for themselves, so they put it upon me. If I ever made that connection later on in life, I'd be pissed, right? And I think that anybody would. So for parents, do what your kids love. Support them in that way. Don't compare them to where they're not. Don't compare them to where they should be. Don't compare them to where you think they should be. That's such an important lesson. And if it's super valuable for you, hopefully you don't get offended by that and it actually hits home for you to where you're like, you know what? I needed that. I needed that wake-up call. That's what this is all about. And lastly, I could go on with a million more examples of comparison, but I'm going to stick to another one that I can relate to is past friendships, okay? Past relationships and experiences with people that have come and gone in your life, okay? I miss the times when. Do you remember those times? Those were, what do they call them? Those were the good old days, okay? If you're so worried and comparing about the good old days that you forget about the nowadays, come on, man, what are we doing here, right? You can't live in the past. So you're comparing against the past. You're comparing about how life used to be and how great it used to be. But the more time that you focus on the rear view mirror, you're not looking forward, okay? You're going to end up crashing. I love that analogy. But anyways, that's the comparisons that I'm talking about. This goes for business. This goes for life. This goes for parents. This goes for everything. This is something that can be applied to anybody listening to this right now. So if you are listening to this and you're like, holy crap, this just hit me so good, oh my God, I need to share this out. Please share this message out. Share this with somebody that needs to hear it, because it could change somebody's life. It could somebody could listen to this and they could just start to see it more clear, and they could make one little tiny shift in the way that they grow up for themselves or their parents, as parents, and it could make a big difference. So let's go into, every episode has a challenge. This episode's challenge is to write down 5 comparisons that you catch yourself making and become aware of the impact of them, okay? So I'm going to give you the challenge then, and then also how to overcome this, okay? Because happiness for me is huge, and I really want to see everybody listening to this. I want to see you guys live a more happy life and a more fulfilled life. So write down the 5 comparisons that you catch yourself making, all right? Become aware of the impact. Just think about how it makes you feel. Think about the reactions that you have to them. When you compare yourself to another person, when you compare your business to another business, when you compare your your yard to your neighbor's yard, or your house to your neighbor's house, on why yours is smaller and theirs is bigger, when you make these comparisons, I want you to attach, for a very brief moment, I want you to attach an emotion to it. How does it make you feel? Understand the impact when you make these comparisons. Now, how we're going to overcome these is to attach a new emotion to these comparisons. Once you become self-aware of the comparisons, now we're going to start creating a new attached emotion and feeling to it. So let's just use, I love that, I just brought that up off the top of my head, is comparing your house to your neighbor's house. If your neighbor is living in a mansion and you're living in a little shack, or whatever comparison you're going to make, if your neighbor has a BMW and you have a Volkswagen, I don't know, I want you to embrace it. I want you to be grateful for the things that you have in your life. And I know that sounds cliche, but I really want you to dig deep, and I mean literally dig deep, and attach a new emotion. Because when you add perspective into adding a new emotion to an action that you're taking in life, holy cow, do you not understand? Like, think about the change that you could make in your life right now. If you add a new emotion to something that at one time is causing you unhappiness, and you attach a new emotion to this of gratitude, of happiness, of driven, of thankful, of blessed, of all these great and positive things that we're all experiencing, but now we're doubling down, we're tripling the amount of happiness, because now what we're doing is we're already happy in our lives, right? Hopefully. And we experience positive things in our lives, but when negative moments happen, when comparison happens, it brings us down. It takes us a step back, and it causes unhappiness. But what we're doing right now, we're doubling down on our happiness. That's literally like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna listen to this episode again, and I'm gonna apply it again to myself because I'm on fire right now, and I'm loving it. So I really hope this episode helps you guys out a lot. I don't know. I love talking about this stuff because it hits home for me. It's relatable for me, and I want nothing more than to see you guys change your life. I want nothing more than to see the progress that you guys are making. So do me a favor, write down your 5 comparisons, attach a new emotion to it. And start becoming so much more happier today. All right, so I was on a quick rant there. Here we go. Back down to planet Earth, the ending mantra, because I'm going to wrap this up. Please repeat after me. Here we go. I am confident. I am valuable. I am a growth winner. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3. I hope you got so much value out of that. If you did, please share this, subscribe below, share this out, spread the word, comment if that made an impact to you guys. I really want your feedback. It only makes the podcast better, and you can be a part of it. If you do want to be a part of it, love to have you on as a guest. Please let me know. Subscribe, share, follow, wherever this link is, wherever this is at. Please let me know. Comment, tell me what you're thinking. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening.